Welcome to the Sound of Ideas from IdeaStream Public Media. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for joining us. While scrolling on social media, you may come across a video from a so-called health influencer talking about a wonder drug that they say the medical industry has been gatekeeping. It's naturally occurring, and you've definitely heard of it. They're talking about nicotine, and what they're saying has doctors concerned. Nicotine is the highly addictive chemical stimulant found in tobacco. Its use among youth and young adults is rising, according to the Centers for Disease Control, with nicotine pouch use by people under 21 nearly quadrupling from 2022 to 2025. In 2024, almost 8% of high schoolers said they had used an e-cigarette within the past month, and more than 2% had used nicotine pouches. Some place the rise in use on health influencers on social media who say nicotine has natural benefits, like improving focus, and that it can prevent Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. Others say nicotine is a better alternative to smoking tobacco, since it's non-carcinogenic and comes in fun flavors like mint and now fruit, the marketing of which was approved by the Food and Drug Administration last month. Even U.S. Health and Human Services Director Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said last year that nicotine pouches are, quote, probably the safest way to consume nicotine. Even if true, safest doesn't necessarily equate to safe. Many health experts are concerned about this framing and its impact on young people. Today, we'll ask Northeast Ohio public health officials about this trend and the role of nicotine in our health, if it has one. Joining us in the studio, we have Dr. David Margolius, Director of Public Health for the City of Cleveland. David, welcome back.
Thank you.
We also have with us Dr. Erica Trappel, a behavioral epidemiologist and professor at Case Western Reserve University. Erica, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Here in studio joining us as well, we have Wendy Hyde, Ohio Regional Director for the Preventing Tobacco Addiction Foundation, Tobacco 21, and an assistant professor at Baldwin Wallace University. Wendy, welcome.
Thank you.
And alongside me, we have Ernie Williams, a graduate of the Freedom from Smoking program and a polished professional's barber. Ernie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We are glad to have you. If you want to be a part of this conversation, you can give us a call at 866-578-0903. You can also email us at soi@ideastream.org, or you can message us on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. Maybe you have a story about using nicotine or tobacco products, or questions about quitting, or questions about these health statements that you've been seeing made online. We would love to hear from you, so don't be shy. Give us a call, send us a message, let us know what you want to say. All right, David, I want to start with you. You've been fighting for years to combat Cleveland's high smoking rate. It's something you said was something that was very important to you when you took this position. What's the main issue here? Are we talking about tobacco cigarettes as a primary problem in Cleveland?
Yeah, thank you so much. And that intro was outstanding, taking us to where we are today. When I started as Director of Public Health 4 years ago, our smoking rate at that time was 35%. 35% of adults in the city of Cleveland had smoked within the last 30 days. And that was one of the, if not the highest in the nation. And so I was sworn in August 1st, 2022. I think by August 10th, I had met with Dr. Erica Trappel, and the next week met with Wendy Hyde to talk about what can we do in Cleveland to help reduce our smoking rate. Because across the country, our smoking rate had been declining ever since it became illegal to advertise cigarettes on television and radio in 1970 and 1971. But in Cleveland, the smoking rate had been rising, and that's because the tobacco companies had just pivoted to marketing towards people in Cleveland, people who are in poverty, people who are Black, kids. And so, we've done a ton of work to reduce our smoking rate. We're now at 19%. However, the tobacco companies have once again pivoted, and instead of trying to market cigarettes, to folks who are living in Cleveland, now they're working on nicotine pouches and marketing directly towards children.
Mm. So now that's something that's a focus here. My next question for you would have been how nicotine products and pouches and vaping fit into this broader issue. So that's a focus now for the city.
Yeah, I would say, if someone is smoking cigarettes, I would rather they consume nicotine in some other way. Absolutely. A puff of a vape is going to be more safe than a puff of a cigarette. Mm. And so if the companies making these nicotine products, if that was their focus, then, I'd lay off them. But we know that's not the case. We know that the flavors like strawberry banana and mango jazz are not meant to help cigarette smokers quit. They're meant to recruit new folks to nicotine addiction.
Okay. Now, Erica, part of the infatuation with nicotine from influencers is that supposedly it's a harm reduction aid for tobacco smokers to help end addiction. So, can you just, Dr. Margolius talked about it there, but can you elaborate about how nicotine compares to other tobacco control products and strategies?
Sure. So all of these products have nicotine, and it's just how they're consumed that has how we're thinking about the impact on the body. When we burn cigarettes or other combustible products, that's introducing a whole lot of carcinogens into the body in addition to nicotine. The harm reduction strategy is just what Dave mentioned. When we move away from those combusted products to other consumption of nicotine, it's safer for someone who is already using a tobacco product. But it's not safe. If you're not currently using a product, there's really no reason to start using a product. And that's where the division of the discussion really is. Is it around harm reduction? Great, but we really don't need to be getting people started with an addiction to nicotine.
Ernie, I want to ask you, you're smoke-free now, and you told me you've been smoke-free for 2 years.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to ask you about your experience with smoking before deciding to be tobacco-free. What drew you to it? Can you think back? Do you remember?
Well, yes. I remember when I first started, I was in the Navy, and that was the thing that everyone did. Everyone smoked cigarettes or chewed tobacco. When you needed to get away from work, that was literally the only way you could get away from work, is if you say, "Hey, I need a cigarette break," and they would let you go. But other than the bathroom, you'd continue to toil on.
I think that's something that a lot of people can probably relate to, the smoke break. That's something that has been a part of society for quite some time. What encouraged you to start the cessation program? How'd you hear about it?
Well, I just happened to be at work that day at the barbershop, and Calvin came in, and he was introduced to me by JB, the owner of the shop, and he told me about the program, and I wanted to quit. I had been looking for a trigger to get out of it, and I wanted to. I had recently had my son, and so I wanted to live longer for him.
Sure. Who's Calvin? Tell us who Calvin is.
Calvin, he is the person who introduced me to the program, CCAP, and he directed the African American Prostate Cancer Project, and he introduced me to the Freedom from Smoking program.
And you met him at the barber shop that you work at.
Yes.
Is he a client?
He gets his hair cut there sometimes.
Okay. Okay.
Stephanie, I'd love to jump in because this is a really exciting partnership that we had through the Case Comprehensive Cancer Center and our community outreach and engagement team, who started working with barbers at barbershops around prostate cancer, but saw an opportunity to have those conversations around smoking cessation. And so to be able to bring resources to a place where people need them and have success stories like Ernie's is just great. So we all love Calvin.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. We'll come back to more of your story in just a bit, Ernie. Wendy, I want to ask you, have you seen any changes in recent years in the way people are using nicotine? Is it pouches or e-cigs, or does it fluctuate?
Certainly. Yes, to answer your question. The trends have certainly changed, whether you're talking about adult smokers who have transitioned oftentimes to vaping products, but continue to use cigarettes as dual product users. What we're really concerned about are the youth and the kids. And what we've seen is that in 2017, we saw a real big influx of e-cigarette use, vaping among our young adult and teen populations in our adolescents. And that trend has gratefully decreased since then. But what we've seen now is that uptick in the pouch products available, and that's what kids are transitioning to. We've seen more adolescents have access to it. They're gaining at younger ages, and they're utilizing the pouch products pretty much as they were using the vapor products, but even in some cases more, because it's such an easy product for them to be able to utilize, to have access to, and it's very discreet. You can put a pouch in or multiple pouches, as some of them do. You're obtaining an crazy amount of nicotine in a very short amount of time. One pouch, a 6 milligram pouch, is equivalent to about 5 to 10 cigarettes.
Wow.
So if you're thinking about from a nicotine standpoint, it's certainly a way that they're getting a lot of nicotine. That delivery method is pretty intense.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, the pouches are designed to be in your mouth for between 15 and 45 minutes.
Yes, short amount of time, very quick hit. And what we're also seeing is that many youth and young adults are using multiple pouches at a time. They've identified ways that they can actually get even a quicker hit by doing things like chewing on the pouches or putting them multiple pouches in different areas of their mouth. It's an effective way to deliver that nicotine.
You mentioned the discrete nature of this. I would imagine that's something that's easier to use at school during the school day, for example.
Absolutely. You can have one in your mouth without anybody knowing about it at school, at home. And of course, they come in all kinds of wonderful flavors that are attractive to youth. They're also quite affordable when you're thinking about the cost point of sale perspective. So on average, a pouch can go for about $4 to about $6. In there, you're getting between 15 and 20 pouches. And so from a cost perspective, it's affordable and they're flavored, which is really super concerning.
So let's talk about the health impact, David, of using a pouch, either consistently or however you may use it. What's that doing to someone's body?
Yeah, so when folks think about cigarettes, they think about cancer, they think about emphysema and trouble breathing and all these terrible things. With nicotine, it's for an adult, high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease, but for youth, it's impairing brain development. So it's causing trouble learning, it's causing trouble remembering, it's causing more depression and anxiety. And so, children are told to take it by these influencers to say that, hey, it'll improve your attention, but the reality is that it's impairing brain development, causing a lifelong addiction, and causing memory problems.
We have a call now from Todd in Ward 1. Todd, welcome to the Sound of Ideas. Please go ahead.
Stephanie, Erica, Wendy, Ernie, and David, you give me those annual birth reports every year in the city. How many babies are delivered in the city of Cleveland? Thank you for that, and the county. So here's where I'm at with this. You're using the word more safe when it might be better suited to use the phrase less harmful, because as David described, nicotine is harmful. Now, there's forms that you could take it in that are less harmful, but it's still harmful. And David, I have a question for you and the group. Will we be serving the public better through your department if we were pushing harder in the taxpayer-funded neighborhood public schools to teach human cellular biology at a much younger age, preferably the third grade? Consider the graphics that they have available to them now so that they can better understand how to build a better body in general and build a better body specifically of their own.
Thank you, Todd from Ward 1. We do a lot of work with the schools and education, and we talk about science, we talk about nicotine, we talk about ways to say no, we talk about the history. I think for a lot of folks, didn't realize that the tobacco industry was specifically targeting folks in Cleveland and kind of sitting in a conference room and making these decisions. All right, how can we get more smokers? All right, let's make it something that's associated with being poor, and it's a stress reliever. Okay, that's a good marketing strategy. And so we teach that. I don't know about teaching biology to third graders. I have a third grader, and he's pretty smart, but I'm not sure he's ready to get all the nicotine receptors in the brain work. But it's all hands on deck, Todd, and we need all the help we can get. And so definitely open for ideas.
Wendy, is there anything you can share with us, any insight into education efforts in schools to help combat the negative effects that we're talking about here?
Sure. So I think the need, and I think biology at a younger age or understanding cellular biology at a younger age is not necessarily a deterrent or something that should not be done. I do think that we should be focusing a little bit more on decision making, on how to go about, determining what's being marketed to us. And from a kid's perspective, they certainly can understand that, and they can make better decisions for themselves. So, unfortunately, in Ohio, we don't have very elaborate health education standards that are being taught throughout our K-12 systems, and health education from the consumer perspective, meaning that educating a young person or a child on the impact of nicotine can be helpful. Teaching them to make better decisions from a consumer perspective can also be very effective, and or how they're marketed to. Many kids and teens don't want to be sold to, right? They don't want to be influenced necessarily or intentionally. They are being influenced, especially through social media and other sources, but helping them to become better at making those, determining what's real, what's not, and how to go about making a decision, and so that they're not influenced by the companies that are selling these flavored products, and really leading them to a lifelong of addiction.
I see you've got some tins in front of you there. One of them says $1.99 on it. Is that the actual cost of that?
Yes, so let me tell you a little bit about this. The Preventing Tobacco Addiction Foundation last year conducted, along with Baldwin Wallace University and a researcher at OSU, conducted a study about retail sales throughout the state. And what we were looking for was to see how many retailers continued to sell to our secret shoppers who were under the age of 21. And throughout those secret shopper buys, one of our buyers came back with this product. It's called Juice Head, and it's $1.99 for that same pack of those nicotine pouches. And they had gone into a retailer and asked for a can of Zyn. The retailer at that time was out of any Zyn products, so he upsold them or downsold them for $1.99 to these Juice Head brands. Again, it's flavored. This one is blueberry lemon mint, and $1.99. So concerning, for certain. I mean, $2 is pretty cheap, and you're talking about 20 pouches that they received here.
And with each pouch being the equivalent of
With each
10
pouch,
cigarettes.
exactly. This is a 6 milligram per pouch, and so on average between 5 and 10 cigarettes.
So maybe 200 cigarettes in that $2
That's
pouch.
That's exactly it.
That's right.
That's exactly it. And I'm not sure. I mean, many people don't even know what these pouches look like. Is what I've seen. If I can get this open here, I can show you a little bit about what the pouch was like.
Well, you get that open. We'll
Yeah.
come back to that. I'm going to take a audience member email right now. We are talking about nicotine products, and we're talking about the fact that influencers on social media are saying that they have health benefits. Doctors are saying that is alarming to hear those claims being made on social media. If you want to be part of this conversation, the number to call is 866-578-0903. You can also send us an email at soi@ideastream.org, and you can send us a message on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. We do have the pouch open, so let's take a look and see
Finally.
what this looks like.
Yeah, so they're simple little pouches, and how a user would use it is to simply put it within, in between the gum and the cheek of their mouth, or between the gum and cavity of their mouth, and then the nicotine is delivered that way. So again, very discreet. As I said, this one happens to be coffee flavored, I believe, and they come in multiple different types of flavors.
Okay. And we do
brands.
know that the FDA recently approved, not for the nicotine pouches, but for e-cigarettes, fruit-flavored e-cigarettes, the marketing of this. And we do know that there was a resignation at the federal level related to that. What are your thoughts on that, Wendy, quickly?
I think that all flavored products should be taken off of the market. I understand from an economic standpoint that there's, that may not occur, but I do believe that all flavored products, if someone wants to consume nicotine, it should be consumed in the flavor of tobacco. And it should not be consumed in lemon or berry or strawberry, or you're not marketing to adult smokers with these flavors. What you're marketing to are kids. You're getting these kids addicted so that you can have a customer for the rest of their life. And so that's concerning. I really do believe that it's irresponsible to approve vapor products, to approve flavored pouch products, and that they should be removed from the marketplace.
Let's get to an audience member email now. David B. in Cleveland Heights writes in, and this is on the topic of the claims about health benefits of nicotine. So David B. writes in, I knew someone who claimed that their use of nicotine, smoking, was helpful for her condition of ulcerative colitis. I accepted this, but I had my doubts since she had been addicted to smoking cigarettes before. I wonder if anything that someone is addicted to could be used to reduce symptoms like anxiety, inflammation, etc. Thank you for the question, David. Erica, do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. Excuse me. There are a lot of stories that people will share anecdotally about I used this product to address these symptoms, but overwhelmingly what the evidence tells us is that there is no such, no strong evidence that these products should be used to treat health conditions. Trust me, I know a ton of researchers who would love to know that nicotine solved all the ills and diseases that we experience today. And if it did, that would be great. And we would put it through the process with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to administer it as a medication, right? And we would get that out as much as we could. Even if it did have this phenomenal treatment effect, we would never put it in products where the dosage is different, where the delivery mechanism is different, where we couldn't make sure that we were delivering the right treatment. So this is a space where I really rely on the science, and to date, we do not have substantiated evidence that nicotine in any of these forms is really effective at treating or managing diseases.
Let's talk about some specific claims that social media influencers are making online that it can prevent Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Erica, can you comment on that?
Sure. I'm going to take a little bit of an academic statement. When I put my evidence out there, I have to go through peer review through other scientists who are making sure that I'm using rigorous methodology before I put my statements out there. Anyone can get on social media and say anything, right? So the consumption of some of this information that leads us this really requires a curious mind, a skeptical mind, and a thoughtful approach to not make large hand-waving statements about health claims, particularly when we know that the harms of these products are very, very well documented.
Thank you for that. We have an email now in from Tom. Tom writes, I'd like to bring up the psychological concept of habituation, where your brain essentially gets used to a stimulus like nicotine, caffeine, dopamine, etc., and has to increase the dose to feel the same effect. Tom writes, this often leads to an escalation in stimulus type or amount. I bring this up because I think our society is pushing our brains to extremes and towards habituation, escalation, and addiction through social media algorithms, through sports betting, through the daily news, through vaping, etc. We must realize we're giving our minds over to these companies and these addictions and learn to seek a peaceful, quiet mind and return to baseline rather than always more, the capitalist ethos. Tom, thank you for the question. I'm seeing nodding from our panel here. David, do you want to talk about that concept of habituation and an escalating need once you get connected to something in that way?
Yeah, no, Tom's right on. And specifically with nicotine, as you consume nicotine, your brain it increases the number of nicotine receptors. And so you need more nicotine to fill all the new nicotine receptors that you have in your brain. And upregulating all those nicotine receptors is what's causing permanent brain damage for kids. And I will add, just on the influencers, they're being paid by the tobacco companies. And so that's why they have a platform and that's why they have a salary, is because they get promotional materials from different companies. And in this case, the tobacco companies have hired these influencers to help spread their product.
One particular influencer I'm thinking of his name is escaping me at the moment, but had done consulting for the tobacco companies, for Philip Morris, and also had a stake in a nicotine pouch company while touting the benefits of a nicotine pouch company. So we have an email now in from Donna in Medina. Donna writes, this 40-year smoker was able to quit after using Chantix for 2 months. It works. I have been smoke and nicotine free for 3 years and a month. Congratulations, Donna. And that brings me to ask you, Ernie, what was it? Can you tell us about the program, how you were able to successfully quit the tobacco use?
Okay, well, Calvin provided a lot of a way for me to document my progress so that I could see it physically, and along with that, there were things like nicotine gum, lozenges, and patches that was provided for free, as many as I need in different dosages. So it was like levels to the patches where you would start off with a higher dose and then go lower as the months went on so that you can kind of wean yourself off of it. Also, I had to document the things that triggered me to have the craving to smoke a cigarette or a Black and Mild in my case. And once I was able to see those things on paper, then I was able to try to veer away from them and try to change my habits and my routines so that I wouldn't put myself in a position to be triggered to smoke a cigarette, at least as much as I could.
I want to ask you about your workplace environment now. I know you said when you were in the military, a smoke break was the only way to step away from work. Is that something that still happens in the workplace now? Are people still taking smoke breaks?
Well, yeah, people still take smoke breaks, maybe after maybe 3 or 4 haircuts straight, and you've been standing there for 3.5 hours cutting, then you run outside real quick and have a smoke break. I just don't. even though I still want to sometime, but I don't.
What do you do? Do you do anything instead? Do you take a walk around the block break? Is that something that's embraced?
I guess that could be something, but me personally, I just snack.
Yeah.
I just snack. I just eat some peanuts or something.
I was going to say, what's your go-to snack? Is it peanuts?
Yeah.
Something a little salty? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like a nice way to take a little break throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your energy up. I'm sure it's a lot standing on your feet all day, getting everybody looking good.
Trying to, yes.
I want to ask about David, now the public health director of the city. So you've got a lot of patience, so to speak, taking
Right.
care of a lot of people.
372,000.
Yes, absolutely. What do you think about the U.S. Health Secretary seen using nicotine pouches? Kennedy seen using this during a recent hearing, and I know there was some conversation from a caller about not using the word safer or safest, but this is
Sure.
a quote. Kennedy said it was the safest way to consume nicotine. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, as an individual, we know that he has recovered from addiction to opioids and presumably, still working through his nicotine addiction. And so I'm supportive of him as an individual, choosing the least harmful product and, on his journey for recovery. As a policy leader and the Secretary of Health, I think he's a hypocrite in the policies that he puts forward. He wants to make America healthy again and get out like different artificial dyes. But at the same time, his FDA authorized all these flavored products when we were this close to getting all those flavored products across the board banned, and like many countries across the world have.
How is nicotine gum supposed to work, David?
Yeah, so if you have an addiction to nicotine through cigarettes or vapes, nicotine gum and nicotine patches are something that we can prescribe for you, and it's regulated. We know exactly what the dose is. We have a protocol for, all right, you're going to do this for 3 weeks, and then we're going to bump you down for another 3 weeks, just like Ernie described. And so that's all good. But when you're buying it from a gas station, kind of choosing your own products and choosing your own venture, that's where it becomes extremely dangerous.
Okay. Wendy, I want to go back to you now and talk about the effort to raise the legal smoking and vaping age to 21. That was in 2019. How did that impact the access young people have to these products?
So we know that raising the minimum sales age to 21 has been an effective mechanism to decreasing youth access, right? It decreases social access. You might have a 14-year-old who has access to an 18-year-old on a pretty regular basis, whether you're talking about a school event or a team or on the bus, even on the way to school. When the minimum sales age was 18, well, that allowed for pretty great social access to obtain those products and share them with those underage. By raising the minimum sales age, we've limited that access to those 14-year-olds and social access to the 18-year-olds. Most 14-year-olds don't interact on a regular basis with with a 21-year-old. So it has been an effective mechanism. We've seen a decrease in sales to minors through that. We've also seen a decrease in use among our younger age populations. But raising minimum sales age is only one piece of the puzzle. The second piece of the puzzle, which is what the city of Cleveland enacted just about a year ago now, is a tobacco retail license. And a tobacco retail license allows for effective enforcement regulation of the retailers at the point of sale. And so what is also helpful around that is that we know that we have many retailers who are lawful. They don't want these products that they're selling getting to the hands of kids, and so they're responsible retailers. But we also know that because there is very lenient enforcement on retailers. There are many retailers, and sometimes their clerks, who haven't been well educated on how to go about checking IDs or at the point of sale. In fact, last year, when we conducted these undercover secret shopper sales throughout the state, we conducted 6,000 in all 88 counties. And we had some counties who had retailers who were down to less than 10% of the retailers were selling. We also had counties in the state that sold up to close to 50%, meaning that for every half of the retailers sold to those under the age of 21 these products. So ideally, a tobacco retail license also closes the loop. Here in Ohio, for instance, we only have a cigarette license for those who sell combustible products, cigarettes, for instance. But we don't have a license, an effective comprehensive license at the state level for those retailers who only sell vapor products, right? So they kind of go underneath the radar, which also then makes it difficult to know where they're located, what they're selling, to whom they're selling. And so an effective tobacco retail license gives a state or a locality the ability to be able to pass effective mechanisms of enforcement. It allows us to do retail checks on an annual basis. And then it also allows for a penalty scheme to be put in place that holds retailers accountable, and retailers who continue to not abide by the law of age of sale of 21 will eventually potentially get their license revoked. So
okay.
effective mechanisms in place.
Thank you for sharing that with us. That is all the time we have for this conversation about nicotine and the claims that are being made about it online. Thank you for helping us debunk some misinformation out there today. I appreciate our panel, Ernie Williams, barber with Polished Professionals and graduate of Freedom from Smoking. Thanks, Ernie.
Thank you.
Also, Dr. Erica Trappel, behavioral epidemiologist and professor at Case Western Reserve University. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wendy Hyde, Ohio Regional Director of Preventing Tobacco Addiction Foundation, Tobacco 21, and Assistant Professor at Baldwin-Wallace University. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you for having me.
And Dr. David Margolius, our Public Health Director here for the City of Cleveland. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
We're going to take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll bring you a new installment of our bi-weekly series, The Menu. This week, we are talking with food truck owners from around Northeast Ohio. It's The Sound of Ideas. I'm Stephanie Haney. Stay with us. You're with The Sound of Ideas from IdeaStream Public Media. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for staying with us. With summer underway, people are coming together for neighborhood celebrations, outdoor events, and community festivals. And with those get-togethers comes a lot of food. Food trucks have become a staple at many of these gatherings, offering variety that conveniently shows up on site, kitchen and staff included. Today, we are digging into Northeast Ohio's food truck scene and its growing popularity in our latest installment of The Menu. This is our bi-weekly segment all about Northeast Ohio food, produced in partnership with Cleveland Magazine. So joining me today, we have Matt Maroon, owner of Happy Camper Bar Car. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
We also have with us Isabella Sugar, managing partner at CLE Chicken Food Truck and Catering. Isabella, thank you.
Hi, thank you.
We've also got with us Delisha Dixon, owner of the Urban Wrap Company. Delisha, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
And Daniel Subwick, Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of South Euclid. Daniel, welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
If you want to be a part of this conversation, maybe you have a suggested location for some of these food trucks to pull up to, or you've got a favorite food truck you want to talk about, or a question about some summer eats, you can give us a call at 866-578-0903. You can also email us at soi@ideastream.org, or you can message us on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. Delisha, let's start with you. Tell us about the delicious food that you are serving up at the Urban Wrap Co.
Yes, we have gourmet wraps and sandwiches, and I also have wings,
Amazing burgers.
Yeah, burgers and fries and just a whole bunch of assortment of different foods and everything.
How long have you been operating?
3 years.
Okay. What was the inspiration to start the Urban Wrap Company?
Well, in my career, I reached my full potential. And also, my dad's an entrepreneur, so he was a big driving force in me stepping out there. I just decided to bet on myself.
And bet you did. And now we're here to learn all about it. We'll come back to you in just a moment, Delisha. Isabella, similar question to you. What are you serving up?
So we specialize in hand-breaded buttermilk chicken sandwiches. So everything is fresh, made to order, right off the truck. We go straight from the raw product to the final fried chicken sandwich. So we have hot honey sandwiches, chicken bacon ranch. We make our own sauces such as the garlic aioli, feisty ranch, which is ranch with feta and has a little sriracha kick in it.
Okay.
And then the hot honey, which is also a little spicy hot honey sauce that we put on the sandwich.
What was your inspiration? Why did you decide to go down this road?
So my dad actually decided to randomly start a food truck in 2019. It was kind of just for fun, a family business and everything. And then we've all been on and off of it. And now I'm back, finished college and everything. So I'm starting it up for the summer and we'll see how things are going. But it's going to be a good summer, I think.
Yeah, getting into the family
Yeah.
business, a very tasty family business, it
Yes.
sounds like. All right, Matt, tell us about Happy Camper. You serve cocktails and mocktails. What was your inspiration for doing this?
Yeah, I was looking to start a craft cocktail bar, and long, boring story, but a real estate deal fell through, and I saw somebody in California had turned an Airstream into a bar, and I was like, we have a lot of Airstreams and people who want to drink outdoors, so here we are, 10 years later.
And you're in an Airstream,
Yeah,
which were created right here in Northeast Ohio,
they are,
right?
Jackson Center.
Yeah.
Been to the factory.
Shout out to the 330, my hometown.
Yeah.
And so, what are you seeing now? I'm just curious in terms of interest between the cocktails and the mocktails.
We have definitely seen a strong increase in non-drinking. So, and that's actually always been a focus for us. We invented our own ginger beer back in the day that makes a great Moscow Mule, we call it.
Cute.
But we do all our cocktails on draft. We make them all ourselves with fresh juices, and we've invented some kind of neat ways to make non-alcoholic drinks that still have the fun of an alcoholic drink.
Okay. Sounds tasty. Okay, Daniel, South Euclid is the only food truck park in Ohio that's owned and operated by the city.
That we're aware of.
That
Yes.
we're aware of. That's very interesting. If there are any others out there, please do call in and let us know. We'd love to hear about it. Tell us more about what makes it unique and how it's contributing to South Euclid beyond just being a source of good food.
Absolutely. So we encourage everybody to come out to the food truck park. Like you said, it's the only one in Ohio that's municipally owned. So it's a public park. It's a third space. It's not home. It's not work. We encourage everybody to come out, enjoy live music, eat some terrific food. And we're trying to engender community. We have a huge amount of support from our residents. And this past weekend, we celebrated our fourth grand, opening weekend. And all the food trucks sold out. We had great crowds the entire time. And it's just nice to have all that activity in our downtown district.
You know, in the past, in the warm months, everybody talks about when the pool's open. Now it's when does the food truck park open? When can we get our snacks outside? That's kind of a shift in conversation.
Yeah.
How have you seen the popularity change over the 4 years now that you've been open?
It's fine. It takes a little bit of time, but it's definitely caught on, not only in South Euclid, but the surrounding communities. Unfortunately, we did see the Beechwood Food Truck Park close. So we're kind of in an interesting spot on the east side of Cleveland. We have this opportunity to have the park open for about 90 days in the summer, to have it fully programmed out with food trucks and music for everybody to come and enjoy.
We've got an email now in from Polly. If you are just joining us here on The Sound of Ideas, we're talking about food trucks and the fact that the road to good food is open in Northeast Ohio. If you want to give us a call to be part of this conversation, the number is 866-578-0903. You can also send us an email at soi@ideastream.org, or you can send us a message on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. Polly writes in, I love going to a brewery or some kind of local festival, and they have food trucks. The variety is amazing. Once in a while, however, I wonder about the health and cleanliness standards the trucks must meet in order to keep their licenses. Could you talk about that? Thank you. And I'll ask Delish, can you tell us about that?
Well, I come from a culinary background. I went to culinary school. I've managed in some kosher facilities, and if anybody know about kosher, you have to be extremely sanitary. In my truck, I can invite anybody back there. I'm very confident. I strive on cleanliness. We have inspections, so most of the time when we come up to parks, the inspector will come and you have to be ready. You have to make sure your sanitation buckets are prepared. They temp out your food. They check your coolers. So when you go to festivals and stuff, they always have food inspectors come around and inspect your truck. You have to make sure your licenses and your permits are always secured. So they're pretty tough. They're actually probably tougher on food trucks than they are restaurants. So
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually throw food truck festivals, and I can tell you we have to send the health inspectors a list of every food truck and their licenses and all of that. So they are rigorously checked, like she said.
yes.
Yeah. We hold an inspection event every year, and this year we had over 100 trucks come in. We try to make it as easy as possible because there's so much burden placed on these food trucks. Make it as easy as possible to get inspected by a numerous amount of cities and have everything inspected so that way they can operate and just knock everything out at once.
Yeah.
And I've been talking about this as a summer thing. People do spend more time outside in the summer, but I do want to ask what happens in the winter with the food trucks. First, I'll ask about the South Euclid Truck Park. How is that utilized in the winter months?
Sure, it's a seasonal park. We do have some fall festivals, but it goes quiet. So we just have programming that we can do indoors. And then we still work with our food truck vendors. I have them at our lighting ceremony at City Hall. So we still try to have as much interaction with food trucks as possible, even in the colder months.
So it's happening. Matt, do you take the bar camper out?
We actually, last winter, we started Happy Camper Hot Cocoa, and we do really innovative hot cocos where we make our own mix. And I invented, it's a marshmallow foam that goes on like whipped cream and brulees, and we buy macarons from local bakeries and top it and stuff. So we actually had a pretty good winter going around to like ice skating rinks, holiday parties, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. What about the hot chicken sandwiches? How does that work in the winter?
So we would be at the IX Center, but I'm pretty sure they got bought out or leased out. So unfortunately, we're not there anymore. So usually we just winterize the trucks in end of October around and then bring them back out in April. So it is going to be different this year because we don't have the IX Center, but
It
we'll
goes
make it
quick,
work.
too. I had the entire food truck park scheduled completed in January. So we're working with all these owners very early on in the year.
A lot
Yeah.
of
The
pre-production.
the off season's more for taking the time to recoup and set your next season up.
Okay.
Yeah. It's long hours in the summer. You need the break.
Yeah.
And would you agree with that, Delisha?
Yeah, I'm seasonal. I'm done by October, and that's what I do. I send my truck back to Ford, get it winterized, and shut it down, sanitize, and all that stuff. So I put her up for the season.
Okay. Let's talk about your menu a little bit more. You have mentioned you do have the executive chef background. So how has that inspired your menu? Is it a lot different cooking on a food truck?
It's a lot. In the beginning, it was different because it's a truck, of course. Just with me navigating, equipment shutting down or not working and stuff like that, by you being on wheels, everything, you're driving through the city, so everything's falling all over the place. So it's a little different, not that much. In my menu, I get to be creative. I was the managing chef at places, so I've always got that to be able to be creative and come up with different menu ideas. When I decided to do my menu, I wanted to do something where almost everyone could find something to eat on the truck, even if it's a burger or a wrap. And my main focus is wraps, but I do have burgers and wings and other things in a veggie wrap for people who don't eat meat. So
Read my mind. I was going to ask about
so
that.
I try to have something. My best friend, she bakes fresh baked cookies, so I have her cookies on the truck. So I try to have a little something for everyone.
Okay. We've got an email now from James, and James is writing in saying Janeda Hutton in Tuscarawas County has a small food truck park. It's fairly new. I believe that's called Food Truck Fridays. Our producer Aya just let me know that. So that's something that James is shouting out. And Matt, I want to ask you about some of the events that you have coming up. You said you organize food truck festivals.
Yeah, coming up in just a couple weeks is the Tremont Food Truck Festival. That's my biggest one. This year we'll have 28 trucks out there. We have people from all walks of life. Actually, she's going to be there.
Yes, it's
But-
our first time.
Yeah. And I try to get a wide variety, so there's almost not two of the same thing. It's not just like 8 barbecue trucks or whatever. So we have a little bit of everything, and it's 3 days long. We're gonna have a free performance from the Ohio Shakespeare Festival.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good
Okay.
time.
So when does the schedule look like? I'll ask you, Isabella. I know that you're maybe kind of just diving into the scheduling and what the summer will look like. Is it Monday through Sunday? Is it weekend heavy? What does it look like?
Yeah, so for a lot of trucks, I know it pretty much is 6 to 7 days a week. So, yeah, basically it's every day. 1 day a week is set for prep, but we do also have to maintain the oil because we do have fryers on the truck. So, maintaining the cleanliness, and we're basically on the truck every day, whether it's at an event or at the shop preparing. But yeah, I would say at least 4 to 5 days a week it's running. A lot of trucks that I do know are booked every single day, which is a lot, especially in the summer because it's super hot in the trucks. We were just talking about, do you have an air conditioner on your truck? So yeah, that is the hard part, but I would say it's almost every day in the summer months.
What does it look like for you, Delisha? And how far out are you booking it? I know we mentioned some scheduling might start in January. What does it look like for you?
I start in January, start booking. I'm pretty booked out. I do a lot of organizations, Amazon, Cleveland Clinic, some of the school districts and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm pretty booked out. Yeah.
So do you know where you're going to be on any given day, or
Yes.
are there any? Okay, you know
Yes.
where you're going.
Yes, I know where I'm going. Yep.
Okay. How about for you, Matt? Do you know where you're going every single day, or is there ever a day where you're like, oh, that it doesn't really work that way, right? You have to get permits. Tell us about it.
Yeah, on the bar car side, it has to be planned very far in advance because you have to pull a not-for-profit partner has to pull a permit, and we work with them. On the non-alcoholic side, we're pretty much straight festivals, so we're very busy Fridays, Saturdays, sometimes Sundays, and then the week is go to the warehouse and prep and go to the kitchen and make everything.
Okay. So with you having alcohol involved, that is a different situation because there's liquor permits.
Yeah.
So sometimes you are strictly non-alcoholic.
Yes, often. I wish I could just stroll up and serve cocktails wherever I wanted, but unfortunately it does not work that way.
I think a lot of people would probably be very happy about that too if
Yeah.
you could do that.
Yeah, it would be great.
Daniel, can you tell us more about some of the things that are planned at the Euclid Truck Park this summer?
South Euclid.
South Euclid, excuse me.
We actually are bringing out the Cleveland Microwave. If you don't know, it's Cleveland's most famous abandoned kitchen appliance. So we're coming for our.
Mine is not abandoned. I use my microwave all the time.
It trended on Reddit, and even the Browns got attention to it. So we're bringing it back out. It was abandoned at Mayfield and Green near the food truck park. So for our Xmas in July, on July 25th, we're bringing it back out. We have our Juneteenth event coming up, and then we also have our summer festival, Rock the Block. 17 bands, 3 stages over 2 days. It's a fantastic time to check out the food truck park and everything that South Euclid has to offer.
Sure. Delisha, can you tell us some of the places where you'll be parked in the coming days?
Rock the Block. That's coming up. Next week, I'm going to, at the end of the month, I'm doing the Jazz Fest. So the Tri-C Jazz Fest, I'm a part of that. Also, Cleveland Heights, the Taste of Cleveland Heights, I'm going to be a part of that. And yeah, I think those are the 2 that I'm going to be up. But you can find us on, all the food trucks are on pretty much on Street Food Finder. So you can always find us on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isabella, how about for you? Where will you all be?
So today, actually, for lunch, we will be at Lakewood Food Truck Park. We're there pretty often. The Post is also a new truck park. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's in Brecksville, Valor Acres.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a new truck park that's starting up. So we're there on Friday. Actually, on Saturday, we're doing our first. It's called Uncorked. It's at the Science Center. It's a wine festival. So we have that. But yeah, we pretty much bounce between Lakewood Truck Park and, like Delisha said, everything is on Street Food Finder, and also the CLE Chicken website. We keep updated where we are.
Okay. And do you know that website offhand?
It's clechickenfoodtruck.com.
Okay. Great. And Matt, where will you be lined up? Where can people come?
Yeah, so Tremont Food Truck Festival at the end of this month, and then in mid-July, we're doing the Parma Pierogi Palooza, so it's a first festival that we're doing that's strictly for one food, so come on out and eat lots of pierogi, and you're going to get cocktails made with Polish vodka. So.
Okay, that sounds like a good time. All right, I want to thank you all for being here with us. Delisha Dixon, owner of the Urban Wrap Company, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Daniel Subwick, the Director of Parks and Recreation for South Euclid, thank you.
Thank you.
Isabella Sugar, Managing Partner with CLE Chicken Food Truck and Catering, thanks Isabella.
Thank you.
And Matt Maroon, owner of Happy Camper Bar Car, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
If you missed any part of today's show, you can hear a rebroadcast tonight at 9 on 89.7 WKSU. You can also find every episode of The Sound of Ideas wherever you get your podcasts and on the IdeaStream Public Media YouTube page. To get the last word on today's topics, you can email us at soi@ideastream.org and find us on Instagram or at The Sound of Ideas. Yesterday, we talked about seasonal affective disorder. While this condition is most often experienced in the winter, there are people who feel its effects in the summer. Kira wrote, "Summer is difficult for people who have migraines, rosacea, heat sensitivity, sun sensitivity, etc. Thank you for acknowledging this and for finally giving a name to what so many of us have been experiencing." Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Kira. We hope you find some relief. Now, tomorrow on The Sound of Ideas, it's the Friday Reporters Roundtable hosted by Mike McIntyre. This week, he's joined by IdeaStream Public Media's Abby Marshall and Connor Morris. And Karen Kassler will call in from the IdeaStream State House News Bureau in Columbus. On Monday, I'll be back with our latest installment of Law of the Land. We'll start the week talking about the use of artificial intelligence by attorneys in the practice of law, and also legal claims that can come up when other people use AI. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for keeping the conversation going. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. I will see you back here on Monday.